All right, brother. As usual, before we kick it off, any fitness happened today or will happen?
Today was a jiu-jitsu day, Pat, and it's just a small session today.
How'd it
Just me and
go?
a couple of regular fellas that beat each other up, and pretty much straight survival mode today. I had a few moments of passing glory, but for the most part, it was, as they say, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, Pat. I spent a lot of time being the nail this morning,
Is
but
this,
all good. It's good fun.
forgive my ignorance, is this always with a gi or how do you guys roll?
I switch hit, Pat. So I train about 50-50 with the gi and without. So
Okay.
today was
Does
Today was no gi, although I was wearing gi pants. For those of you out there that are enthusiasts,
does the gi have to be white or can you get a cool color like black to look more intimidating or something?
it really depends on the school. Some old school places are real sticklers about that. The first place I trained at, Eduardo, was very old school, and it was you had your choice, white or blue. None of these fancy
Okay.
colors. And not disrespecting, you got to earn that sort of thing like way later, if at
Okay.
all. But yeah, white or blue only. But a lot of modern places, they don't care.
Okay. What color is yours?
I've got a plethora, Pat. I've got a white one, I've got a
Okay.
blue one, and I've got a black one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get yourself a gi sponsor here through the show. So
The last thing I need is more jujitsu gear. I appreciate it, but it's like CrossFit t-shirts. I love them, but
you got enough?
if I'm honest, I don't need any more of them.
Aim into that. I've been a little sick, but today was heavy back squats. Did heavy back squats, 9, 9, 6, 6, 3, 3. Went well. Legs feel a little jello-y, so all good in the hood right here. So,
Yep.
all
Yep.
right. Well, before we kick this off, if you are a gym owner, you got to do all the things: workout tracking, gym management, billing. You don't have to have these different platforms that don't work well. BTWB has an all-in-one solution. So if you are a gym owner interested in the all-in-one, go to btwb.com, check that out. And then on the Very Not Random side, you can go to verynotrandom.com, check out all the different cycles that we offer: body weight, engine, barbell. We got it all for you. Uploads right to the app, make your life easy. So check those out as well. Okay, here's the question today from John C. Opinion for the interest of Sherwood and Boz after discussion with an Army active duty friend and avid garage CrossFitter, as I am as well. I asked him what he does when work life keeps him away from the program that he follows, which shall remain nameless. He answered that he just picks it up with
Definitely linchpin,
yeah,
100%.
right, exactly. It was he just picks it up with that day's program, whatever it is, versus like doing the week pass that he was last able to train. So that sounds to me like when he comes back into real life, whatever it is in that day, he does it instead of saying, "Well, I missed a week. I'm going to go back and start where I left off." I disagree and feel it is important to follow a program in order for knowing that the original program has mapped out exposure to elements, all the things of CrossFit training, etc., etc. In this example, he should go back a week ago where he left off. Just keep, but is this asking too much for the average home CrossFitter? And then he says, but then he says, like, well, maybe, I don't know, like when I used to go to a workout, as soon as they wiped the workouts off the dry erase board, they were kind of gone forever. So maybe these workouts that he didn't do are kind of gone forever. So, like, what's our opinion on that? And he says, thanks, John, a listener of all 237 episodes.
Hey, right on. Thanks, John. That's
Boom. There you go.
you're,
John
you're
is
probably
dedicated.
you're probably one of one. That's pretty great.
You're the guy. John, you're the guy.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, I think pretty straightforward. You're following something,
Yep.
whatever it happens to be. And do you miss? Let's just say you miss a week. Do you make it up or do you go back?
Hey, man, I'll start with the general. I think it's pretty breezy to just pick up where you left off, or I'm sorry, jump in right back where the program is on that calendar date and just keep trucking. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I will start out a little hot here, Pat. No program is so dialed in and so predictive that if you miss a day or two, it's absolutely critical. And if that's the case, man, it's that fragile. You really believe that? It's just not the case. Nobody's got that kind of omnipotency in their programming, no matter how good they are, that if you miss a day or two, it's absolutely just going to affect your result at the end of the day to that degree. So for that reason, I wouldn't hesitate to just take those days and jump in. Now, that said, the devil's always in the details. And the big question here to me is, okay, how often are we talking about
Mm-hmm.
individual starts having quote unquote life getting in the way? Because if it's every week and you start to just kind of, well, Monday, Tuesday, I'm not working out, but Wednesday I jump back in. And then I miss Thursday through Monday and I jump back in on a Tuesday. And it's more holes than it is, plank,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. Then I think you got a different situation where, in all likelihood, you're running the risk of just cherry picking. And that's a very different thing. So if this individual is legitimately, hey, man, sometimes we all get busy and you just can't get there for whatever reason, and it's once in a while, truly kind of thing, yeah, skip a couple days and jump right back in. But if it's a habit and it's something that is kind of devolved into like, well, yeah, I follow this program on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but realistically the numbers are not in my favor that way, then I think it's a different conversation.
Yeah, it would have been nice to know the frequency, but I guess for lack of knowing that, I'm just going to treat it as this. His buddy happens to be active duty army. Maybe you have some other job. You travel to Europe for a week for work or whatever it happens to be. You miss a week, and
Yeah.
so whatever that happens to be. And the point that you let off with, getting a little hot right out of the gate. I I had myself getting there, but I was going to probably tap dance around it for a while. But so I will get there as well. But what I would say is, sorry everybody. I wish I could fight the other side of this thing and make some more interesting show. And one of us takes one side, one of us takes the other. But I really actually have a hard time taking the side of why you would need to go back and start over with the week. Like I really do. It would be so artificial that the show would become a bit silly. So what I would say is,
Can I
um,
add something to that real quick, Pat?
sure,
I don't mean to derail your train of
no,
thought.
no,
I'll also say too that if you are always perpetually jumping back to catch up with the things that you've tried to catch up with, you can never close that gap. There's never, you know what I mean? Like you'll
you're gonna
never
be in 1989 before you know it, and you keep going
never
backwards.
make it to the current day. And that can be really demoralizing when you're like, man, I'm a month behind, I'm 6 weeks behind, I'm 2 months behind, to the point that that might lead somebody to just jump ship somewhere else.
Yes.
Anyway,
Now,
sorry to derail.
Now, kind of in line with what you said, but maybe kind of a bit different, and also probably because I'm a programming nerd. Like, does the programming matter? Yeah, and the reason I say that is like there's some really dumb stuff out there. There's also some really great stuff. So I'm going to make the assumption that you're following somebody competent, and actually it's not Linchpin. I don't know who this person is, but you're following somebody competent and they know what they're doing. Cool. So okay, now that programmer might have their flair, their style, but if they're doing the general big things right, okay, then let's just say over the course of a week, you're going to try to hit the gross movement patterns twice. You're going to go below parallel a couple times. You're going to hinge a couple times. You're going to do some upper body pulling. You're going to do some pressing. Like that's going to be covered. If you're doing like what I would consider classic CrossFit programming, you're going to have one classic heavy day in there. Maybe you get something like we do a Linchpin, like a heavy day at a high heart rate. Um, the loads, hopefully, on all the workouts for the week are not the same. There's some variance there as well with regards to rep schemes. You might have a pure monostructural day. You might have a pure gymnastics day. The time domains will vary. Those things, I didn't mention a workout. I didn't mention a loading. I didn't mention a movement. Those are just general concepts. Those general concepts should somewhat be present every single solitary week. And so whatever week you miss or when you jump
Yep.
back in, you should be jumping back into these general concepts. Now the programmer has a lot of freedom, and hopefully it's intentional with how they can cover those bases. Like if we just stuck with the below parallel thing, okay, you missed this week's training, and the below parallel for that week was whatever it's happened to be. Well, that programmer could go below parallel with back squat, front squat, overhead squat, full snatch, hang snatch, thruster, cluster, squat clean, hang squat clean, air squat, Bulgarian split squats, walking lunges, weighted or unweighted, front rack lunges, med ball cleans, wall balls, reverse lunges, box step ups. Like I'm sure I'm forgetting things. And you could play that game with hinging, upper body pulling. And so you missed, let's say they went below parallel twice, two of the 25 different ways they could have done it. The next week that you come back, you're going to get a different two. And the loads will probably, one could be this, one could be that. Like you're going to be okay in the general scheme of things. So I would say if you're following somebody competent, you can jump right back in because you're going to cover the big patterns that are really necessary and getting kind of to sooner than I wanted to, which you let out of the gates hot with earlier, which is kind of like when I go to my kid's basketball game and nobody can catch a pass and all the parents think the kid's going to go D1. Like the truth is, and when I say you, I don't mean you, John, and I don't mean your friend. I mean me too. I mean
Sure.
most of us people. Um, we are not as delicate and precise of an athletic specimen as we may want to believe that we are. And truth be told, that week you'd make it up, you come back in. What matters the most is like that week that you happen to miss during that week. Were you able to keep your sleep and nutrition somewhat on point? If you kept your sleep and nutrition pretty good and you missed a week and you jump back in, you're great. If you said, well, you know what? It's a week's a wash. I'm not going to work out this week. It's just 7 pints of ice cream a day. Like, okay, well, that we got a different thing going on. Like, take care of, get your life back in order. But I
Yeah.
think most of us are not this like scalpel of precision, So
Yeah.
I'm kind of in line with you there.
Yeah, man, there's plenty of people out there trying to trick you to believe that it's all so critical, Pat. These are very neurotic times. I think I've said that before, but I truly believe it. It's like there's whole industries out there to convince you that you're just walking a tightrope, and don't let CrossFit programming fall into that. And I got a thought experiment for you, Pat. We have two CrossFitters. Let's call one of them Pat and one of them Adrian. They're both pretty experienced. They know their way around a barbell. They've been doing some of this stuff for a while now. They're competent with the basics. Adrian's been following this program for 6 months. Pat is just going to jump in today. Is the expectation that Pat has to go back to that 6 month mark and jump in to make any progress?
Right.
If the answer is
Right.
no, well, then there's your answer right there. It's like, at the end of the day, if a new person can pick up the program and just run with it, and they will be expected to continue to make progress, well, there it is. If the program's set up to be so structured that you have to go all the way back to day one and work your way all the way through, okay, well, so be it. But I
Hmm.
doubt that that's the type of program we're talking about here.
And being charitable to the other side of maybe you look back at the week that you missed and taking like again as charitable as I can is like, hey, maybe there is some value in going back and doing something. That's not off the table, but I would say what's going to help you make that decision is hopefully you have developed that strength and conditioning IQ, that fitness literacy, whatever you want to call it, because look, here's the deal. We could play this with a couple ways. Maybe you actually really know yourself as an athlete. You're not cherry picking. Like your areas where you should, that would benefit you.
Yep.
And this week's, maybe you have a single modality sprint sort of a day, and it's a foot sprint. And you see that last week you had one, and you know what? It was rowing. And you're like, I'm actually a way better runner than I am rower. Like I would have really benefited from last week's interval day on the rower. Well, then you can use your strength and conditioning IQ to be like, I'm not going to do the foot sprint today. I'm going to do that because that really would just be great for me. Or, last week the way we went upper body pulling, we did ring muscle ups and strict chin ups on 2 different days. And this week we've got kipping chest to bar and legless rope climbs. Man, my ring muscle ups suck. I missed them last week. You could swap those in. Like
Yep.
you're still preserving the general gross movement pattern. Like you're close enough for government work. So you could take that on if that happened to be the case. I got no drama with that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I love that. It's great. It's kind of, especially if you are disciplined enough to say, hey, this is something I need to be working on versus this other thing that popped up today as a home run for me.
Right.
I mean, if you could recognize that, that's awesome. I'll say too that, having run many programs, meaning I've participated in them from main site to all sorts of early CrossFit programs that were offered to, I'll lurk on people's programs these days and jump in from time to time. I will say too that even if you can't follow it to the letter, sometimes you miss a day or two. There might be something interesting that you earmark, and then the cycle naturally unfolds, and you feeling there's a rest day that you feel like, man, I didn't get as much as I wanted this week. I can feel like I can squeeze something else in. We'll go back to one of those earmarked workouts and
Hmm.
pick. I think that's a fun way to approach it too. I think anybody who's been doing CrossFit long enough kind of does that naturally, where you're like, oh man, that's a cool one. I'm just gonna save that one for a rainy day because it looks like a lot of fun or it looks like it'd be good for me or whatever. Don't be afraid to do that once in a while too. Now, don't fall off the cliff and turn that into every rest day becomes a catch up day. That's not what I'm advocating for either. That's not a great road to go down. But it's nice to have that list that every once in a while when you're feeling froggy, hey man, pull one out and get after it.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing, like I said, like you said, that I would have loved to know is the frequency in which this occurs. Is it you miss a week once a quarter? Or is it, you're gone 2 weeks every month or something like that, because then the more frequently that it happens, you could take a look over your notes and be like, "Man, I haven't deadlifted in 4 months," or something like that, could
Yeah.
potentially occur, through just bad luck when you always happen to be gone, and once again, if that was the case, that would also be when having that fitness IQ would be really happy to be like, "Now I am back. I know this is what's going on this week, but man, I really need to hit A, B, and C because those are foundational and it's been too darn long." Like that's all good, but the oversimplified, without knowing more minutia to it, the average person is mostly home, mostly training consistently, happens to miss a week for whatever reason. When you come back, I would just pick right back on the current day. That would be my recommendation.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's yeah, not going to break the bank in any one direction to just jump back in.
Yep.
Last
So,
thing I'll
oh
offer,
yeah.
last thing I thought about doing this is, affiliates often struggle with the question of like, well, how do I run a particular program in my affiliate, given that I'm open 6 or 7 days a week and people are going to take rest days at odd intervals, and I don't necessarily control that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that they've operationally had to just do it for years. And it is a catch as catch can mentality. Now, is it flawless? No, but is it going to get people that show up more often than not really fit and really well rounded? Absolutely. So you can't stress about it too much. And that's just like the boots on the ground application that every affiliate deals with every day that they're open when they cannot control their membership showing up and the life experiences that they all have and stuff that gets in the way for them. So it seems to still work.
Yep, 100%. So, yeah, hopefully that was John. That I think John, what we actually did was validate your friend's side of the argument. So maybe you're like,
Yeah,
dang it,
sorry, dude.
I was hoping I could say the Pat and Boz went the other way, but I think we're more aligned with your friend. But hey,
I
all
think
good.
we just killed his streak. He's like, I've watched all
Yeah,
the episodes.
exactly.
I'm quitting after this
Guys
one.
are a couple idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. Uh, so anyway, yeah, you could pass that along to your friend John, or you can never tell him because you just want to
You
keep
know,
keep
yeah,
yourself in high regard there. So as everybody can see, your input drives the show. So we want to hear from you either on this topic or ideas for a future show. Go to the BTWB YouTube channel, find this episode, post it there in the comments. Or you could go to the Very Not Random Instagram account, post a public comment there, or send a direct message if you want to be anonymous. All those things make their way back to us and they help drive the show forward. So for Adrian Bosman, I'm Pat Sherwood, and we will see you next time.